The first scale that would come to mind? If your answer is the major scale, you're going to want to pay attention to today's episode. First, though, a big warm welcome to our live crew. If you're here with us live, type something in the comments. Let me know what instrument you play, where you're joining from, whether it's sunnier where you are than it is here in London. And if you're on Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube tuning in live with us for each of these broadcasts, I super appreciate it. Please do type something, even if you have already, even if you have several times, especially if you have several times, because I love getting to know the names and faces of our live crew who join us for these broadcasts. So today we have a Coach's Corner episode. I'm super excited to share it with you. And I'll begin by asking, did you know there's one scale which is even more important and powerful than the major scale? And the best part is, it's not more complex or more advanced. It's actually simpler. Andy reveals all in this week's episode of Coach's Corner. Awesome. So before I queue up the episode for us today, just a quick recap of the last couple of weeks. We're doing 3 episodes a week now, so it's been 5 episodes since I last did a recap. We had parts 3 and 4 of my conversation with David Reed from Improvise for Real, which was inspired by these really punchy quotes they had put out on Instagram. And we got together and chatted for 80 or 90 minutes about these quotes, and then we've been publishing them in parts. So parts 3 and 4, the final couple of parts, went out over the last 2 weeks. And if you missed those, I highly recommend checking them out. David dropped such wisdom and insight about what it means to improvise, what it means to be creative, where the musical instinct comes from. And I loved that conversation. And from the feedback we've been getting, a lot of you really enjoyed it too. Then we had our mini interview and masterclass excerpt from Jeremy Ryan Mossman, focusing on body-based voice. So he brings all of this experience of yoga and Feldenkrais and biotensegrity to learning to sing and really getting in touch with your voice and what your voice can do. And in that mini interview and the clip I shared from his masterclass, you got a real taste of how his approach is so different. And it's really added a lot, I think, to how we present singing here at Musical U. Our members really got a lot out of that session. So definitely 2 episodes to check out if you do sing and you want to know more about how to explore your voice, or if you don't sing because you think you have a bad voice or you think you sound bad when you sing, definitely 2 episodes to check out. And then our last episode was an Inside the Book one. I gave you a sneak peek into the audiation chapter. Audiation meaning imagining music, hearing music in your mind. We sometimes call it the secret music practice skill here at Musical U, because it's something you can do to develop your musicality, practice your music in a really powerful way when you're not at your instrument and without even anyone knowing you're doing it. So it's a lot of fun when you get into the habit of using audiation. And in that little sneak peek from the new musicality book, I shared the kind of benefits and implications of developing how sophisticated, how versatile, how powerful your audiation ability is. If you want to know more about the book, musicalitybook.com is the place to go. And I'll have links to all those episodes in the show notes alongside this one. So on to today's episode. It's a Coach's Corner one, where I get together with our next level coaches and them to share tidbits and insights to help you in your musical life. This time around, Zach explains how and why to take back your musical authority from the sheet music or notation where you might not even realize you're currently putting it. Andy shares the experience of pentatonic joy. So coming back to my opening, the pentatonic scale is worth going deep on. And we do at Musical U, our members get a lot out of it. And Andy shares some really great examples of why it's such a versatile, powerful, valuable scale to get intimately familiar with. And then Camilo reveals a surprising way to become a better sight reader. All that and more coming up in this week's episode of Coach's Corner. And I'll just throw in a reminder, as I do, to try and grab onto one little tidbit, one comment or insight or idea or new way of looking at things. Take it away and apply it in your own musical life. That's it from me. I'll see you on our next episode. And here we go with Coach's Corner. Hey, we are back with another round of Coach's Corner, where I get together with some of our next level coaches and ask them to share some kind of nugget, a tip or trick or insight or technique, something that can help you in your musical life. Today I'm joined by coaches Andy Portis, Zach Bailey, and Camilo Suarez. Welcome, guys. Good to have you with me. Let's kick things off this time with Mr. Z Sonic. Zach, what's new in coaching lately? What can you share?
Hey, Christopher. Thank you. Excited to be here. Yeah, I have a really cool insight today, I think, and it's about sheet music. I had a client who recently took back their musical authority from the sheet music. They realized that they had been looking at sheet music as this thing. They put all their authority in the sheet music. The sheet music said you have to play all these exact notes in this exact order, at this exact tempo, this exact meter, and this exact key. And if you diverge from that even 1%, you've completely failed and you're fired. that's how that's how they're like viewing the sheet music, as this authoritative dictator that was telling them exactly what to do. And if they didn't do exactly that thing, then they somehow didn't learn music, or I don't know what. But they realize that they're the ones that make the music. The sheet music does not make the music. They make the music. The sheet music can give you a map of maybe sounds and options that you could possibly explore, but you don't have to use it exactly the way it's written. You can take things from it. You can, instead of asking, what does this sheet music expect of me? You can ask, well, what can I do with this? You know, we're all at different levels. And when you can look at sheet music and say, well, what can I do with this? Then you can learn from it no matter how advanced it is and no matter what level that you're at, because you can extract something from there that you can play with it. You know, it's like if you go to your friend's house and they have all these toys, you might not be able to play with all the toys, but you can choose a couple toys. So maybe you just choose like the root notes of the chord from the left hand on the bass clef if you're playing the piano, and you just focus on maybe the first note of every measure, or maybe you slow it down. Maybe if you're, you know, you have some more musical understanding, you play it in different keys. You maybe just take the melody out and then make your own chord progression with it. So my client realized that, you know what, I don't have to do exactly what the sheet music says. I make the music. I can make my own decisions. I'm an adult. So I don't have to just do what people tell me all the time, you know? So I think that was really awesome to take back that inner authority and that musical authority and say, you know what, the sheet music, no matter what is printed on that sheet music, it never makes any sounds. I have to be the one that pushes buttons on an instrument or plucks strings or makes a vocal sound for there to be actual music. So the sheet music needs you. You the sheet music, without you, there is no music. I think that's really cool insight that they had.
I love that. That's powerful. Yeah. And I think it's one of the reasons I got so excited about the creative super learning approach we take in Next Level in particular, because I think in both of those contexts, creativity and super learning, we had kind of seen over the years that we really had to persuade people to get out of that black and white, right and wrong mentality that the notation so often gets people into, where they just think about getting it right. And, you know, when we taught expansive creativity and showed them how they could come up with their own musical ideas, they could bring that back to the pieces they were playing as written and play them a lot better. And similarly in super learning, like so much of the contextual interference stuff is about changing what you play compared to what's written. But it turns out to be the route to playing what's written at the highest level. So I love that. I love that reframing that the sheet music is not the boss of you. And it's nothing without you. You are the music maker. That's awesome. Thank you,
Uh,
Zach.
yes, thank you.
How about you, Andy? What's new in coaching?
Well, just over the last couple of weeks, one of my clients has been experiencing something I can only describe as pentatonic joy. Uh, she's been working through the winter season, and as part of the winter season, it starts off looking at how the pentatonic scale is actually related to the circle of fourths and fifths. But then there's one lesson in there where, when you're doing the lessons, you're kind of directed to look at the scale in a slightly different way. So you're looking at the modes of the scale rather than just starting from the root of the scale all the time. And this particular client absolutely fell in love with the second mode of the pentatonic scale. So we're talking about the pentatonic scale in C. Just to kind of make this clear, we've got C, D, E, G, A. In this case, this was going to be rooted and resolving back to the D. So it was D, E, G, A, C, which gives it a completely different kind of sensation when you actually hear that. And like I say, my client completely fell head over heels in love with this sound. So I said to her, well, how about you write a piece of music using this? Which she duly did. And she came up with this wonderful, evocative kind of air that it was just gorgeous sounding. It really was. So the next step she's going to do, she's going to then, now she's written the melody, she's going to do the chords, she's going to harmonize it, and she's going to write some lyrics to it, and then record it and hopefully share it with the world. But it's truly, it's the scale that keeps on giving, I think.
It absolutely is.
I mean, the other thing is that you're not forced to kind of stick within that scale as well, because there's no third within the scale. You can actually play around with the minor and major sound within that. When you come to harmonize, or if you're improvising, you can kind of do various things in there. So it's I can't recommend playing about with the scale enough, really. I mean, the usual, like I say, is the major and minor pentatonic, but there's so much more in there. Wonderful.
100%. Yeah, I think the two things that stand out to me there are, number one, we always preach the pentatonic, and outside the world of musical people think about the major scale and the minor scale, and maybe if you're a guitarist, you think about your minor pentatonic for soloing. But like, we've just found how powerful that is as the skeleton of everything else, while also being so much simpler and so much more easy as a gateway to creating and improvising and recognizing notes by ear and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
So if you're not already a pentatonic convert, spend some more time with the pentatonic scale. And then the other thing is that modes. Yeah, it was a really surprising thing to me back when I was taking lessons with a Kodai instructor. We worked our way up to the solfa for the pentatonic, and I was expecting us to then continue to the full major scale, but we spent like 6 weeks just doing the modes of the pentatonic. And I was familiar with the theory of modes, but honestly, I hadn't spent much time doing much with them. And I know a lot of people watching or listening to this probably feel a bit of intimidation around modes, and they maybe get the basic idea, but don't spend a lot of time with them. But the pentatonic modes, they all have such different characters, and they're all so simple and elegant. So yeah, another really great thing to play around with.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, the other thing as well is you can build chords out of them, which is something a lot of people don't kind of realize. So you're stacking maybe fourths or fifths rather than thirds, which instantly starts sounding kind of more filmic, which is again is a wonderful kind of a way of kind of getting into composing. Yeah, the scale that keeps on giving.
Might have to trademark that phrase. I love it. Awesome. Camilo, how about you? What's doing coaching?
Well, this week we had a question about sight reading. I have a client who is very interested, and one of his objectives is to become a better sight reader. He wants to be able to sit down in front of reading music and being able to play the music of Chopin with more ease. And he felt that he's getting there, but it still takes a lot of effort to do that. And the question was about, how do I become a sight reader that can do this with more ease? So we started using solfa. We're saying, let's get away from the piano for a moment. Let's take a phrase and sing that phrase using solfa. Take a break, come back, and the results start to happen in a way. It feels counterintuitive to walk away from your instrument to become a better sight reader. But it actually saves us a ton of time to be able to do that. Not only that, but it's just quite enjoyable to sing and get that intuitive understanding of the music that we are playing.
Perfect. Yeah. And it comes back a little to that creative super learning thing, I think, in that with the pure sheet music mentality, you approach sight reading as, I must get better at obeying the instructions on the page, right? And so you wouldn't dream of doing anything away from the sheet music and your instrument. But really, the heart of the learning is constructing that mental representation of the music. And there are so many different ways to do that. So I love that. That's a really ninja side way into sight reading more easily. Fantastic. Well, as always, you guys bring the variety, such a rich variety of ideas every session. I always look forward to these. Thank you for sharing these nuggets from recent coaching. We will see you on the next round of Coach's Corner. Cheers.